What's up, legends? Welcome back to a new live stream. So today what we're going to do is we're going to finish a piece that I started sketching out on a sketchbook, and I've taken a picture of that. I'll have it on my iPhone. I've already imported that into the iPad, and so it's gonna be this piece here, which I'll show you just in a second. And I'm excited that you are here. I hope that you are doing well. Again, my hand hurts from the challenge that we did on Wednesday, the 5-hour drawing challenge, which was really crazy, and I cannot say how tough it was on my body. But after a few hours, kind of the pain here in those 3 fingers went away. I got the piece here in the back on my dinner table, or this common area. So if you know the layout of my studio a little bit, you know that back there is the kitchen and everything else. Here is the studio. Behind the camera is the chalk wall. And perhaps you also enjoyed the little touches, the little improvements I made onto the stream, which is kind of this, those pencils that you see right in front of the camera, a little bit blurred, just to give you that little extra nice edge to it. I even have a spotlight on those pencils just to make it even pop out a little tiny bit more. Now I'm excited that you guys are here with me. So again, I'm saying this, that you always have 2 parts. So one part is where you challenge yourself, where you actually push your own limits to achieve more, to see like how much can you actually accomplish, how much can you actually do. And so challenges are great for you, but you also need the balance of just relaxing, doing something meditative. And drawing, sketching, doing something creative should also be just meditative, something that you can just do. So it's kind of similar, and I like to take those analogies from running. So whenever you're doing some runs, you shouldn't be pushing yourself more than once a week, where you like strain your nerves and your energy full out, but then you just have some kind of relaxing runs where you just kind of like move your body just so you're still in the flow. And so this is what we're going to do today. We're going to stay in the flow, just making something relaxing. Now, I still see that about 65% of people watching this video are not subscribed yet. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, this is time. I also have some updates for you guys. What's going to happen in the future is that I'm not just going to do draw with Stefan sessions, but I'm also going to start introducing some grow your business or grow your creative business, and also a creative pep talk, or that's actually a podcast name from someone else. So I'm going to find a better name for that I can use myself. But it's also where I'm going to be talking about things like creative block, how do you structure your day, how do you stay inspired, how you do all these things, things that I love, and kind of like do some coaching one-on-one with you guys, where you can ask your questions, where you can talk about all of that stuff. And then again, about the creative business, if you're interested in actually making money with your business, if you're interested in investing into your business, then this is a great way to do that. So I'm excited to be talking more about this, and I hope that you are too. Now let's jump over to see what type of sketch I have ready for you guys. So let's jump over here, and I got this beautiful sketch of "You are not going to run out of miracles anytime soon." So that's one of Elevation Worship pieces that I just absolutely fell in love with. It's maybe you remember that I've posted something on Monday where I said like it's been a rough time for me doing all these the setups and personal life and all that, and I don't want to go into too deep, but we all have challenges, and it's a great reminder for everyone here that there's still someone who has miracles left, that he's not running out of miracles. And this is why I want to write that piece out. If you want to, you can also take a screenshot of that, but you can also just follow along, do it on paper. I'm gonna do this on the iPad because, again, I want the final piece to be used or able to be used in different ways, be it on print. So for example, I have this book here, and the reason why I do it on the iPad is always so that there's a chance that it could be printed out. And so all of these were made on the iPad, and I'm happy that I did them so that they can be used in different ways now. This was actually done on the chalkwall piece, but again, I'm digressing. I'm focusing on other things. So this is the piece that I want to take. So I'll open here, Procreate. This is the piece that I finished this week. Your love is like a river overflowing its banks with kindness. I actually started out with doing a lot of stippling in here. So if you watch the playback of this video, you can see like I use all the grids, the letter builder to do all the fine tuning and consistency of all the letters. Added some like a lot of stippling over here, tried it in different ways, didn't work out really well, which is why I then switched over to go with a symmetry tool actually, and then start drawing out these plants, these floral elements, which like is something brand new for me to do, but I absolutely loved it, and I kind of want to do more of that. So again, here we are, we're doing a new piece. So I'm going with my standard canvas size, which is 4,000 by 5,000 pixels, and I'm going to import now this picture. So dragging this over here again, you can just simply drag that in here, and you can see there's a lot of sketches that I've made. There's another one that I also want to do, U-turn graves into gardens, another great one by Elevation Church, Elevation Worship. You can have it all, also one by Elevation Worship. So here we go. I import this, and usually the first thing that I do is kind of try to use a free transform tool just to get that all straight, just to get these paper sides aligned really well with the rest of the page, and maybe have to do some adjustments. But here we go, that looks already pretty good to me, and great place to start. And so now we got the sketch down. What I'm going to do is to actually start to reduce the opacity so I can just see and focus on the lettering. I don't need all the information, I have most of it. So I'm going to start by actually adding some grids around. So I got the layout already set. Now, usually we'll start going into the grid builder and see which pieces are the best ones to use. So right now, I feel like the arc large could be great. So I'm going into a new layer, adding the arc, and we'll see if this looks, it's something in between those two. So I can reduce here the size, and now it still looks like the top here actually fits in really well. And so this is where I'm gonna place it. That's good. And I'm also gonna draw a straight line down through the middle, which is also a great way. So this is way too thick. I'm gonna reduce the size here. Gonna do a straight line through the middle, and then gonna adjust that to the sign here. Now going back to the first grid that I drew here, I'm gonna erase the lower parts because I just need the upper part. That's the arc that I need. I could even take that a little bit higher like this. And you can see like my sketch is not too bad. It's pretty, fits in really well, but there's some fine tuning that I can do, and I can now duplicate this one here just to create all this balance and the symmetry. So right here, place that right into the center where I want to have the rest. So that looks good. And now I'm gonna add those straight blocks. So again, back to the grid builder and looking for that block shape, which is here at the bottom. And I can just place it in and then just start. I can start wherever I actually want. I do not have to start at one side or the other. Just making sure that it's centered like that. And then I can just adjust it to almost the size of my sketch. Again, tiny little adjustments are always fine. Duplicate this one here. Now I want to make sure that there's some consistency in between those elements. So that means that this size here might be reused in other places, for example, anytime or not. Just need to make sure that some elements of the letters of the words will actually be reused and be used in that way. All right, so let's go for the next one over here. I'm gonna place that too. Now, usually when I do these, I do not talk that much when I'm in private, which seems natural, but just want to make sure that you know that I do not necessarily talk while drawing all the time. Just trying to help you follow along, make it easier for you to understand all the single steps. So here we have the knot. I can now drag that down, see if I want to keep the, let's see, So this is a tiny little bit smaller. So again, this will be even smaller. So I'm just gonna reduce that a tiny little bit more, and we'll keep it there. Maybe just drag it along. See if I can put that down into the middle, just like this. And then I want to go back to the knots. So here, this one I'm gonna delete. I'm gonna duplicate the anytime and gonna drag this back up. So minor adjustments, but again, for the sake of continuity, kind of like the spacing in between here as well is also one element. Just need to make sure that we get that all pretty similar to that. So as you can see now, this has almost the same spacing, and one thing that doesn't have the same spacing right now is the anytime and the soon. So what I could do is kind of like drag that higher up. So going back down to the right one, maybe can drag this all just a tiny little bit higher. Perhaps I'll have to change the miracles as well. So let's add a other box here. So again, the knot was here. I'm just gonna drag this size as well for the off, and I'm gonna place it right there where the off should be. And let's see if we have a similar spacing now between all of these, and it looks pretty much like if I put my finger in between, this one is a little bit larger, this one is a little bit thinner. So almost all in all pretty close right now. Next up, miracles, and adding another block inside here. This one has a little tilt. So again, that will be here. And I'm gonna take that up here and then just gonna drag it out to both sides. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt that in one direction, trying to get the angle that I want to have. So just maybe a tiny little bit more. And then I'm just gonna drag that back into the center. So here we go. These blue dots in the middle are the ones that will help me to just see that I'm correct. And then I'm gonna select this middle line, this X height, pretty much. And I'm going to move that up a little bit. So something that you rarely would see is that you can actually change these heights here just to match the height. So when you're drawing it out, it's just going to help you do that a lot easier. And I'm going to change the sketch as well here with the soon, just to get that a little bit higher up, so that I'm not confused, or not too much confused. Here we go. I can even kind of modify it a tiny little bit, but not too much. So that is fine. So that's pretty much the very first step that we're taking when we are drawing and we're sketching it out, or we're taking a sketch that we've already finished. So the goal here is really to just play around and set those grids right where you want them to be, make them as perfect as possible, because that is your starting line of the composition piece and the finalization that you're going to do. Now we have about 1, 2, so these you are going to and soon are all in the same style. Miracles is their own style, and then I want the not, off, and anytime also be another style. So, well, they're all sans serifs and kind of like maybe transformed sans serifs, but they should be not too far apart. And then run out is also a little bit different. So we almost have 4, which is pretty much more than I usually would want to have. So I see that Kara is saying, I think you're missing the word off. So the off is right here in between the R and the ligature of the L outside here, the flourish that's coming out. So you can barely see it, but here is the letter off. So next up is I'm gonna actually take all of these, and one thing is to group all of them, and then you can just hide them. What you want to do at some point is definitely just create one layer out of that, like merge them all together after you've placed them, you're happy with how they look. I'm not going to do that just yet because there might be just some little transformations that I want to take or do during this time. Okay, so let's grab a pencil. So sketch, so I got my Stefan Kunz Steph's pencil here, and I'm gonna start out by drawing out some letters just to see where the style I want to take it. So right here, I'm going to start off. And so these lines really help me to just get the angle right of the drawing or the letter. And so I can just also follow these lines here, just making sure that it's all pretty much the same. So you can see the curve really starts very late, so it's almost a square-ish letter. So I'm going to try to keep that style pretty much throughout the whole piece. So very blocked, except for the Y. The Y will pretty much remain here in the center. And so I kind of keep those distance here between to just help me follow along. Now, one thing though that I want to address is also that the Y will be a little bit closer to the O, so I have to adjust that later. But then again, use that space here. The A will also be a little bit more square-ish and drawn here, low crossbar. And then again, similar style. Then the other side is to get kind of the distance right. Here, low crossbar. And so I'm just perfecting the sketch before I actually start finishing the piece. So right here will be the E. And we're still drawing it all in just outlines, or just, I call that the skeleton of the letters. So kind of like keeping this really light, not adding too much styles, not adding too much details to it, because we're still in the sketching phase. So now I know that the O was a little bit too far off to the side, so I can see that here and here this would be centered. So I could go with the same style as well here for the knot, try to see if that could work. And then here, try my best to keep those same distances, cleaning this all around, then going to, again, pretty much the same style, just a little bit rounded here, low, and we could do the same thing here as well, just lowering the crossbar just to make that visible for us mostly. Now I might have just made it a little bit too short, but so we kind of use this space here, so that could be, we can still transform that at the end, so that is absolutely fine. Just trying to use the best way. So here, tiny little bit more space. Again, crossbar just a tiny little bit lower. And then finally here, the 2. And then the O. All right. So here we go. That looks pretty good to me. Let's see if we can just move it a tiny little bit in. And then the same thing with the 2 here. Not too much, because we still want to have them separated, but the 2 is already a little bit inward, so that works out. And then finally we have the run out. So again, these 2 words, beautiful symmetry of words, 3 letters, perfectly to do that, or easy to do that. So let's see, I'm gonna start here off from the center, trying to capture that as good as I can. Again, just the outlines of those letters, not just too much detail. And I want to keep those condensed, So here, if I'm not sure about those distances, I can also just start drawing a U here and then move it inwards. So kind of like this, move that inwards here where I want to place it, draw the R as well in here, decide where I want to have the crossbar. If I kind of want to keep the same consistency with all the other letters, I can decide whether or not I just want to keep the crossbar low. So this is what I'm doing here. It's to grab that and then also place that just a tiny little bit closer. So that's kind of like the kerning part. And again, the same part on the other side here with the other word, the word out. And then drawing out these letters in the same spacing here. And so now I can just, again, just grab one letter, drag it in, get the distance consistent to the others, but kind of like keep the width of the letter also consistent. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, so now we got run out, going to run out of. So the off will come in here. Again, kind of want to keep the same style up here, but I'm just going to try first the anytime before I go down the next one. So the T will start pretty much in the middle. And then we'll have here, this one will be a tiny little bit larger. The E should keep the same distance, but the M will be a tiny little bit larger. And now just getting all of these closer together. That's the kerning part. Kerning is also very, very important when it comes to lettering. You want to make sure that the kerning, the more you do it, the better you'll get. So it's observing what feels right. There's a kerning game actually that you can play, that you can find online. You can just type in and Google search that, the kerning game, and you'll find something where you could actually play around with kerning, and it's a fun game, fun exercise to do. Absolutely recommend it to try out. So about here, that is where the N will go. Then we have the Y. And again, just the important part is also just keep those lines like perfectly on the other line. That's why you really need, or why you're actually using the grids. Even if you're not using the grid builder, you're still using grids to draw your letters to make them fit really well into the shape. So here we go. Now I still feel like the Y is a little bit too far apart of the time, and I can still now, what I can do is just grab the anytime here and then just pull it apart to get that distance that I want, that I feel is good. So that looks pretty fine to me here. And now I can, from that here, create like a new layer and create the off, maybe just using these shapes here just to get me that right element. And so now it's already too far apart. Maybe also the F is just a little bit too large, but we can get there. And so now I can just drag it up, and I got more of a consistent style with the other lettering that I have on the other side here. All right. Ooh, coffee is always good. And water. So now I'm gonna start off with miracles, and usually drawing like serifs or cursive, not serifs. Cursive letters are usually what is probably the most intensive for me to draw. It's the one that like I struggle with the most, and it just takes so much time and effort to get it consistent, to get it right, to get those lines really nice. And right here, I feel like I have a perfect spacing, like created this nice spacing. So I kind of want to have always these lines in between here to be filled. And so now here I can probably go out and draw something bigger. And so this is kind of to match the size of the M here at the beginning. So this feels a little bit off, to be honest. So it feels like there's just way too much space in between these two letters. So I'm going to change that format just a tiny little bit. So yeah, that feels a lot better like that. Here, it just took a little bit too much. Remove. Whoops, not what I was trying to do. Here we go. So getting these closer together. That looks good. So since I haven't, or since I've created a new layer for this one, this will be a little bit easier. Trying to keep, again, these distances regular, but now what, and this is maybe the little trick that I'll do here, is to kind of get this out, space it out. And since we're just doing the inlines, it's easy to stretch those letters without actually losing any details. So this is really cool to kind of connect them all together. And now the M. So the M is one that I actually, there's something special that I wanted to make with this one, but I haven't yet figured out how to do it. So maybe I will in the process. But for now, this is where we at. So I still feel like it's a little bit off to this side, so I'm trying to figure out if I can just move it a tiny little bit more. Yeah, maybe. And now see if I can add some flourish in here. That looks all right. Then we have pretty much a similar style in here with soon. And I'm just going to see if I can space these out in a similar way. So that would be very large letters, but fitting for this ending here. The same way here, still kind of keeping those edgy letters. Perhaps I'll change that. I'm unsure yet if I'll keep it. All right, let's have a look, see how this looks with just the lines. So here we go. I can see that there is merge down. There are still some help lines over here as well. So I'm just gonna clean that up a tiny little bit. Wouldn't necessarily have to do that for a real piece or something that I'm working on, because you can easily imagine them without, but it's nice to have that cleaned just to see where you're at. just like that. All right, so still the miracles feels like it's off-centered, and the off is anyway off-centered because it's not straight in the middle. So we can drag the whole thing here a tiny little bit more over, like that. And I can also just change the M if I wanted to. Maybe doing something like more like this, perhaps. Again, still not sure about this M. Can play around with the top here. Trying to balance it out. That's pretty much the goal, is to balance out those letters, get the best possible way of doing it. And then one final piece that I also don't want to miss is kind of this rectangle here. So I'm drawing this out. If you hold down, you get a nice, perfect rectangle. Important is, again, just to make sure that it's centered. So seeing off, see that it's not perfectly centered, but now it's getting better, looking better. I can also just get that to about the same height. So that looks a lot better here. And now I can just delete the lines where they're not needed. Like that. And so again, if we now hide the background and the grids, there we go. That's pretty much the starting point that we have here, where I can see like what does it still need. For example, the run out, like I kind of want to have the run a little bit more to the center here. So I'm not actually using that right now. Let's see if I can pull that in a tiny little bit more, and also just pull in the OU here closer to the T, and then maybe also just getting all of these here closer together, just like that. That looks fine. And maybe we could space it out all a little bit more. That's an option. But so far, like the next step would be to add some, again, some like botanicals elements out here, just around, just to fill it up, and maybe just like fill in these parts to give some kind of like some filling, some glow. Not sure exactly what I'm going for, but there's so many options you can do here, and just where you can play around, fill it out, play around with your ideas. This is why the sketch you start off with, and even though I have that on my sketch, I have this, like you can see those botanical shapes in the background. You can see how I have added all these those floral and botanical illustrations around. So it's something that I feel strong about, but not sure if I'm actually going to use it. Maybe I'll also use some pictures in the background, Photoshop elements together. That could also be also an element that I could use in this piece. So let's see. So if I say like using elements in the background, let's see if I can just grab Unsplash and just search for maybe botanicals, flowers, like something like that. Like I can drag this in and then pull these together, like multiply these, duplicate them, and kind of add these in the background. And so let's see if I mask that. You can imagine how this could look. think this could look amazing if you spend enough time with that, adding some touches like that just in here. So this is a great place right now where we're at to play around with the those ideas, really go wild, try to come up with as many things as you can. You can just also just illustrate these, like you can also just go in and just like hide them and create illustrations. So going back to this layer here, saying I love this piece, and I'm just gonna add some, like I'm gonna even just turn them a little bit better. Or how can you turn something real into something better? Using your creative freedom really to play around and to create those amazing sketches, drawings. Practice your illustration, which is also a great thing to do and to try out. And so again, if we hide now that, you can see like those are elements that you can use in your piece later on, which could look amazing. But still, it's great to play around to see like, do you find enough pieces, elements that you can use? Again, going back to botanical here, see if I could find enough elements that would look similar. Like here, I could use this one. I could use this here. These are all great, so let's see. So again, I would have to play around with it just a tiny little bit more, but in the end, it will look amazing because you just got all these elements. So here, what I have to do is to change the curves just to get the background really white, and then I could use something like multiply just to create these elements there, and then hide the rest. Again, using mask and stuff like that. But again, that is playing around, seeing whatever you can do now. But we're still here with those letters. We're also thinking about how can we create now these drawings, like how can we create the style for that. So the next part that I usually think of as well is the texture of the letters. So knowing if I'm using a real background or not can help. What I also just love to do is to use my paintbrushes from time to time. So I haven't used them in a while. And so this is actually a fun thing. So this is what I want to show you guys, how I choose the drawings that I do. And so here we go. So I go on my Pinterest and I'll look up like the last style. So here I use the pencil sketch that I showed you on the last piece. So that was the last piece. Here, pencil sketch as well. Even pencil again. So I've been using a lot of pencil here too. Wow. So usually you'll see like this is, again, paintbrushes, paintbrush style. Then going back and forth, here's actual paint markers. But you'll see the mix will vary between styles, and I'll try to kind of come up with what is the next piece going to use, and so that I don't just repeat the same thing over and over again. So here I'm going to, for example, now create a new layer, then just hide that a tiny little bit. Again, just introduce these lines again, and then I can just, without even using the letter builder, because my letters here are very simple, they're very geometric. You could absolutely go with it. Sometimes I just like to just go around, like I do not have so many rounded parts. And I can also just reduce a tiny little bit here, the opacity. And that's where the hard part here will be to get the thickness of all of these letters similar. And so that's where you're gonna have to play with probably the most. And I kind of want to keep those streaks in here as well. So I don't want to have like perfect letters, just still want to have some form of imperfection in it. And because imperfection just gives you more of a realistic hand-painted feel. So you don't just want to make it look like you used a font, which you can absolutely do, but I kind of miss that in my pieces, that I want to have this imperfection of those streaks, of those lines, of that paint that I cannot just get digitally. So here we go, kind of adding more weight. And so here as well, we can change the Y to more of a squarish Y, which would be, and I'm really considering that, is to actually go around and start to do the Y more like this, perhaps. Maybe not, who knows? I might have to find a better solution for the Y here. But again, now going into the A. My assistant just sneezed, and she really tried hard to not make it loud. Bless you.
Thank you.
I told her before, she sneezed just before we started the live stream, and I told her, like, that was the last time. You cannot sneeze again for the next 8 hours.
You said 12.
Yeah, it's true. I said 12. I didn't want to come over too harsh here. But since you sneezed, we can take that off of your bonus. No. Now it will come across too harsh. I'm kidding, there is no bonus. Now she's looking with dead eyes. Okay, should stop doing jokes. Alright, so now the A here could look a tiny little bit better. But it also, oh, there we go. That is helpful here. Take that away. Then just go in to the next part. Okay, I must admit that one of the reasons why I like using the brush paints is because I do not have to really perfect the letters to make them really like those lines. Like if I would be drawing them out, show you the example. If I would be drawing them out with this brush pen, like the lines would need to be so much more perfect and just round it off. And it just takes me a lot longer to get those angles right, to get those roundness right, correct. And now, especially now, the thickness, because since it's a hard brush, it's so much harder to get that all correct and working. And so that is nowhere close perfect, especially the O. So that's where I probably would use the letter builder to help me draw these lines. But here, a T would probably be a tiny little bit easier. I say tiny bit because it's still trying to get those letter strokes perfectly correct. So that is how I would draw it with the pen. And now, as you can see here, the N looks pretty good for me, for my standards, or I'm just happy with how it looks. So we're going back and we're going to take the paintbrush, which is so much easier to do. All right, let's go back here. Paintbrush kit. So if you want to get that paintbrush kit, you can find that in on my shop. You'll find that in the tools description in the link below. That's where you can find all of these tools and items. Now, let's see. I want to reduce that opacity just a tiny little bit more. Here we go. Somebody is writing that they're afraid that I would lose my voice. I promise you, this is not how I sound when I'm losing my voice. You should hear me after a workshop. That is when I'm losing my voice and where I pretty much cannot talk anymore. And so two days workshops back to back, or just a workshop back to back, that is where I'm usually about to lose my voice and where I can barely talk at the end. But this is not it. This is just me speaking like low, quiet, and also I have allergies right now, so that's where like the whole phlegm or thing comes from. So here, that is the T, and I'll probably will have to drag that a little bit closer together. So fun fact here, I'm actually not a person that is afraid of drawing live or in front of people, like in any way. Like I love doing things at events, but I usually try, like I know what I'll be drawing. I kind of know like how long I need to take and draw. But here, this is kind of like an open-ended process that could take anywhere from a couple of minutes. Well, a couple of minutes, man, I'm giving myself too much credit here. Could take a long time to do, or just a little less time. And here, I do not know where I'm going to take that. And so sometimes it's also just good to play around with something, not just to draw. And here I'm just actually duplicating this here, which is a fun way of cheating. So here I'm just gonna drag these letters a little bit close together. I wanted to see if that distance is, yeah, it's actually pretty accurate. It just feels like the O here is too far apart, and here the G will get closer together, and there we go, that is a little bit better. So let's see. Another thing that I could also do is actually going back to the clone tool. The clone tool is something that Procreate has introduced recently, and just cloning this in here. Whoops. Now just need to erase that part there and then finish this off. And again, huge time saver and way to actually create multiple letters fast, easy, without a hassle. So same thing here as well, just maybe dragging this in a little closer, and then the T as well, just move that a little bit closer. That looks better. Okay, where are we at? The run, the run. So Jonathan is asking whether or not I have tweaked my own paintbrush, and I do not feel like I have. I do feel like it's still the same setting. Like I would usually only release a brush whenever I'm done tweaking it for a while. But there is a chance that I have worked on it a tiny little bit since. I do not remember. I would have to actually re-import the brush and to see the difference, but I do not think so. I just maybe play around with the settings of, I don't know, the opacity setting of the brush itself. But beyond that, I don't think so. So the thing about the paintbrush, so getting that same effect is you feel like usually I would press really hard down, but what I try to do is to really just do strokes and strokes, and I'll paint it totally differently than using any other brush. So kind of like doing fast strokes, light strokes, just so I can get that texture in, and even how I hold the brush. Like sometimes I'll hold it a little bit further down in different ways. So I think it has a lot to do how you draw, and if you can have that light touch to it as well. So that U doesn't look like all the other letters somehow, even though the thickness should be fine. All right, should we try the miracles? That one is actually the one that I would start off with in the end, but let's follow the stroke, the hierarchy of all the letters that we've done so far. So first off, I'm just gonna follow those lines that I've already done. And then the next step here is to create this. One of my favorite styles is to just create like a line in here. So one thing that I might do first is to create a virtual line just to see if yeah, that is pretty accurate. I can just drag down a tiny little bit like that. Go back to black and hide this. And so here, again, just filling it out, but not pressing too hard. And also one way to get that nice color effect is by actually following the lines here. So following the stroke that you would draw in here, so that way it will create a nice effect. And again, all about consistency. So having those guidelines, having those stroke lines are just there to really make it easier for you to get that accuracy, that precision, and consistency over all the letters you draw. Now here, I'm just gonna erase some of that because I'm just gonna get that in a tiny little bit closer. weight distribution is a very important part here. And the distance between these two are also not ideal. So what I kind of want here is more of this. I'm just gonna erase some of that. And let's see. Cut this here out, duplicate. And then just try to connect these like that. That is better. And then drag in the E and the S. Well, that was merged down. Just like that. It looks already, feels better just having that distance in between. Just look too long otherwise. And let's see. So here, this one kind of mimics this here, which is fine. It's good. No real place for a dotted I, but here we still have the off that we shouldn't forget. Place it a little bit to the side. And now comes the pièce de résistance. It's the M, the one. Well, I'm afraid of this microphone because it's about to hit me either in the face or it's gonna stand still and hopefully not squeak anymore. So here we're just adding that weight, giving that same thickness somewhere here. So that looks fine. Let's do the same thing here on the top. I'm not sure if I want to somehow introduce like that, but yeah, why not? Then here, now this is one part that I could stylize, is to actually detach the lower part here of the M. Let's see, this already feels too thick. But now it depends all on this part here. Doesn't feel excellent yet. Do I need to make that smaller? That loop just a tiny little bit. Happy coincidence? Maybe. Okay, let's not get hung up here on this M. Let's try to keep on going, finishing the rest of the letters just to get the rest done incomplete. Too good. Coffee's all done. All right, so now we got about the whole thing done. Perhaps I'm just also going to create a separate layer to do the outlines here, which are here. All right, so now we're just holding on this here and that. We get to see all of this here. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer. No, I'm on the right layer. So either fill that out completely, which looks a tiny little bit better. So the whole thing now looks pretty good to me. There are still some things that I'm not totally sure about. For example, here the tops, there are just some things that are not especially pleasing, like where I want them to would like them to be. That is maybe the better way of saying that. Let's see if I can maybe add something in that space. Yeah, that kind of looks cool. Let's see if I can just do it a little bit better. Just like like that. Oh. That line still looks a little bit thin compared to the rest here. That too. And then what else? What else? So now it's really just correcting by the eye, trying to find like where you can add some more contrast, more weight. Maybe even erase some parts, not too much. So this is pretty much the blueprint of the final piece, which is a great beginning. Which now the question is, how do we really pump it out, like get the most out of it? Now somehow, I feel like that kind of gives it that little tick, more of a kick than a tick. And here, probably not going in too close, kind of like that. So it is very simple. So it's a very simplified design, not too many elements here in the lettering itself. That is something, again, we could add like a clipping mask and then going with some black here. So this will kind of erase. What is happening here? Oh, clipping mask. Mask, that's what I wanted, not a clipping mask. So here, kind of erasing some parts. Giving it some outlines, but that just makes it so much thinner. What about getting some drop shadows? Could be cool, could work. What about adding those flourishes around? So let's see if we can add just a new layer here and kind of dig into those flourishes, botanical illustrations. somehow that it doesn't look bad. That is not the thing. It's just I have a hard time to fitting it all together, making sure that it kind of like harmonizes all in all together. Let's have a quick look here. Where's the mouse? There it is. So somebody's suggesting using the symmetry tool. That, yeah, could potentially work. Still trying to figure out something that I could do. So usually what I'll do is also just look at some people around that I've been following, and one of those people that I've been following let's see. There is one that I just do not remember the name of. What account was that? Actually, I know who is following that account, so I know how to find her faster. These are all the ones that we have in common, and she should be in here. Well, that's not actually her that I was looking for. Nope. Oh, that's her. Yes, that's her. Wow. Okay. This is absolutely stunning. And perhaps I can hide this here. And I just realized that the whole thing here is not centered. And with the M back here, it looks even like the this part here is not centered either. Again, it looks already tiny little bit better. So one thing you can play around with would be kind of like adding these flourishes around and stuff like that, but that's not what we're trying to do here. I'm trying to get kind of like a beautiful artistic way of laying out things. So here again, somebody suggested that before. So it's adding the canvas drawing guide, edit drawing guide, add a symmetry line. So just making sure that your symmetry line is pretty much in the middle, like that. So that is not very centered. So need to go back to the symmetry line. Set that more to the center, which is probably going to be here. Kind of. Okay, so so you'll see that on your layers here, and you can tap on it. You should be able to tap on it. Well, my iPad is freezing. Freezing. Okay, let's see if I can just kill that, go back, open that up again. So I can select here drawing assist, which will make it that I can add some smaller elements to it. So again, I could add some beautiful, well, I'm going to say beautiful, but they're not yet beautiful. But just some floral petals, something like that. Something light. then going back again to the inspiration that I had here, which is mesmerizing to look at, because these are actual real flowers. Those are not just illustrations, but those are actual real beautiful flowers that that person used. And I am mesmerized by all of that, by the beauty. I might actually have to take the soon here and center that one a little bit more. I guess the hard part will be to actually not make it too complicated or just overdo the whole thing, just to keep it really nice and balanced, and then perhaps adding just some touches of color here and there. Oh, now I've been drawing on this. Ooh. Been drawing on the wrong layers. Yes, please. going for my 4th coffee today. But the good thing is decaf in the office. So no shaky hands here. So I like the top part for now, and it's really nice the way it looks. So if you see here, you can see the top part, all these nice elements added. Let's see if we can maybe perhaps add some color in here, maybe a nice shade of green. Perhaps I'll actually take some of that green here, get some inspiration from there. Well, inspiration is probably the wrong word, but well, actually I could also in here just add the assist, drawing assist. That way I can just color in these petals. Wait, something is off. Oh. Okay. That might just be too vibrant. What would be a great color that fits in here? Maybe just a... Oh, that is too strong. Way too strong. Maybe more pastel. Maybe a red. Like a light pastel red. Perfect coffee. Thank you. So here's the thing that's bothering me. It just doesn't really look like me. And I'm saying this trying to say this in the best way. So even though I like it, where it's going, where it's headed, it just doesn't feel like me. And so that is kind of making, not unsure, just second guessing kind of where I should go. If this is the right direction, if I should just try something else. You know, the normal stuff. Okay, now I'm gonna try to apply a trick that I haven't done. I feel like a English person. Is to now see if that works. Not sure if that's actually a great idea. Let's search for gold. Drag that in. That should be okay. And then, oh, okay, so, that is perfect. So I need to delete some layers. So here we're gonna flatten this, and then we can finally import the gold. We're gonna turn this around in the best possible shape here. And then we're going to move it up and make it a clipping mask. So this turns it into gold and the background into black. And there we go. We have a nice golden part with some flowers on top, some petals, some botanical elements. Now the one thing that I can still do is actually go in here into the curves and to adjust some of that, just the brightness of it all. That makes it look a little bit more greenish, but that kind of works too. But the thing again, which is now annoying me as well, is that when I go back to my Instagram feed, which is here, the last post that I did had a black background and a gold foil on top of it, which makes that look pretty much in the same style, not that brand new. So we could talk about this being pretty much the same thing. And what if I invert this? So white. Again, still black background, still the same principle than just before with the gold. But I just love the texture that it has when it uses white instead of black. What we can still try is to go around, and let's leave out the petals here. So that's the weird thing. So I can just actually grab that all here, and then three fingers, cut, and then we're gonna use 3 fingers again and paste, put it into a separate layer, which is like that. Invert black to black. So let's see if we use all that. We group, we hide, and we imported a new picture. So kind of more like green. What happens if we search for green? We get nice green elements here. This is really nice, but I'm looking for green. This is nice, but this probably isn't the best one yet. This could work too. Okay, first off, I need to place it. Grab this in. This is beautiful. I'm sure I've used that before, but we can always use it again. Oh, this one is nice. Okay, let's flip this around. So now we got like, I don't know. Oh, maybe flip this in the other way around. Just like that. So what I want to do here first is to kind of darken this a tiny little bit. So it's not like it doesn't come out too strongly. Leave it where it is. Then I need to take all of these pictures and hide them behind it. Now we got this element here. And where do we have the, somewhere we had, oh, there we go. So invert this. Feels like I moved it somehow, and I did. I just remember. So basically here, right? Okay, this seems to fit. So let's see what happens if we use a different picture. Whoa, this one has a lot of gray in the background. Let's see if I can just increase the brightness on the screen here. It's not black in the background, so I'm just gonna leave that here. This one is also has a lot of bright areas. Still not really what I'm going for. Maybe we go for blue sky. Like, what about a sky? Clouds. Too much. This could be kind of okay. What about this here? That's too simple. So I could still go in here and just take down the curves a tiny little bit. So the clouds are not too bad, they're just not perfect for it. So let's hide some others. What just happened here? Everything came back on. Okay. Let's turn this on, this on. Gold doesn't look great on blue. What about miracles? Maybe something for the topic miracles. This, I like the grading on the sky, kind of like this, but just too much going on. So not a big fan of that. Well. Yeah, no. All right, where were we with this one here? So this one still is probably my favorite. Going with the illustrations around. Maybe I have to post it just a tiny little bit later, not just right now, right after the last post that I've done. Maybe I'll have to create some other parts first. We'll for sure play around with the, maybe I have to again put in here the drawing assist. Play around with those petals. See how I can just add some touches here and there just to nicely fill it out. But again, trying not to overdo it too much. But here again, it kind of comes together really nicely. Maybe I can even find ways to use real petals to Photoshop those in. Maybe that's just too much of an effort. But for now, I think I'm gonna sit on that. I'm gonna work on it some more, so you guys will have to check out on Instagram when I'll post that, and we'll see how this will turn out. But for now, I'm really excited how far we got. We played around again, taking you through the process was to really start out straightening all the tools, making sure that the lines are all great, using Grid Builder and just grids For those who are not using Grid Builder, that's totally fine. But yeah, you can use that tool just to create consistent lettering, making sure that those arcs are kind of the same, reflecting them, using the tools to reflect them. You can actually create your own grid within Google Presenter or PowerPoint or any of those tools, like for free. You can just play around with those tools and like place them inside. Again, just wonderful way to play around. So this is one way of doing that. Of course, you can finish that on paper, however you've started off. And I just wanted to take time to say thank you so much for watching, for spending the week with me. So Monday, we had the session with the neon lettering sign on the iPad with Ian Barnard. On Wednesday, just wanted to say yesterday, but no, it's actually been Wednesday. So 2 days ago, we did the 5-hour challenge where we actually challenged our own limits, our own thoughts, and to create something amazing. And I have this piece of paper in the back, which I'm really excited about finishing as well. So I still got a lot of work to do ahead of me to share it. And I'm excited for next week, for the coming season or the coming sessions that I'm gonna start off. And one of them again is how to start building a creative business. Maybe that's something you're interested in, let me know. And also I'm really excited, in just about an hour, I'm going to start on Patreon doing a coaching session. So I will start coaching, or I'll coach Miriam Saad, who is one of my Patreons. Sorry for that. Who's one of my Patreons, and she will be joining us in a webinar, and you guys can join in too if you're on Patreon as well. So I'm excited about that. I love coaching people. I love helping others find their next step, finding a way to grow. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm also really excited about Saturday, which is my day off, where I get to do nothing, just enjoy, maybe binge watch a Netflix show, maybe just go outside, run for 2 hours or something like that. I haven't run for 2 hours in a really long time though, so maybe I have to pace myself into doing that. But yeah, and Sunday is church day, which is exciting, and I'll be back on Monday. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Do not forget to stay creative, create something today, even if it sucks, even if it's not perfect. Don't be afraid of leaving something on the side. Let that simmer, let that sit, and see if you come back with fresh eyes, you'll have new ideas. It's always good to just get off and stand away. And this is why I'm not forcing myself to finish this piece right now in this session here, even though I would really want to. But again, I took it really far. I'm happy with how it looks so far, and I can't wait to finish this, to work on it even over the weekend. And then whenever I have the capacity, again, those bright ideas, that's when I will finish this. And guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic time. Let me just prepare that end slide before we jump off. And so that you guys, yeah, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe if you haven't. And can't wait to see what you'll create next. And yeah, don't forget to post your pictures, tag me in it, show me what you create during this session here by tagging me on Instagram stories, using the hashtag #drawwithstefan or any other way. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye. That's the wrong one. There we go.